Hey, so I'm really excited to share this new video walkthrough with you. I think there's so much potential in using VR spaces or virtual spaces like this for educational purposes, for whether that's a professional development experience in a space like this, or if you're in an environment where you're allowed to have students use these spaces. I just love the idea of having proximity as the method of interaction, as opposed to having to be on kind of a flat Zoom or Google Meet call for every type of interaction. The team at Frame VR just has the most amazing product that works across all platforms. I'm here running this Frame VR demo on my MacBook right now, but I'm going to add my iPad into the scene as well in a minute, just straight through the Chrome browser. I've made a few videos in the past on using Frame, but I was interested in kind of revisiting it after one of the most recent updates with a few key, really helpful features. So we're going to get into that right now. So the space that I'm in right now in Frame, let me just show you in this one that I'm in. You can see in this frame that I've built, I'm in the Zen office space, and I've selected that one because I want to demo one of the newest features, which is these private chatting zones. So you can see this little blue dot on the bottom here. Let me just go to the laser pointer quickly. All right, so hold on a second. All right, so you can see that little blue dot there. That's indicating one of the private kind of audio zones. So as soon as I walk into that zone, there's a beep that happens. I don't know if you all were able to hear that, but there's a beep that happens when I'm in that zone. And you can see the line changes over to a green dot because I'm in here. So any audio that I share, it's not location based in the sense that it could spread beyond this zone. It's locked into this particular zone. So what I'm going to do is have a second user join into the call, so we can kind of get a sense of what that's going to be like. So you can see here I'm on an iPad as well. I'm going to connect to the frame on the iPad. And there's my friend. There's our anonymous user over there. So I'm going to have this user walk towards me. And what I'm going to do on my end as well is notice how that line is blue. So I'm going to walk into this private zone. There we go. And then I'm going to have this other anonymous user join me over here. So now we're both in this private zone. So any interaction that's going to take place right now, let me move this out of the way. Any interaction that takes place right now, all of that audio is confined just to this zone. So that's a really helpful new feature on Frame that I think could be valuable for any sort of kind of remote instruction, professional development interaction, or even having like a virtual event or a virtual class here. Now what they've also added, if you notice in the top corner here, is the ability to send a broadcast message to everyone in this environment. So a non-location based interaction or experience. So we do have to be out of this private audio zone to make that happen. So what I'm going to do with my character on my laptop right now is get out of this zone. And then on the iPad device as well, let me follow that character out. We'll get out of this zone as well. So now, if I wanted to talk to everyone in the room, not just the people that I'm near, I can turn on the megaphone setting, and now I'm able to communicate with everyone in the entire space, maybe call them all back together if I had to. So I'll turn the megaphone setting off right now. So that's one of the key features that I wanted to share. Now, additionally, let's go into this overflow menu over here. One of the other features that I really like is switching to single user mode. So if we toggle over to single user mode, what happens is, even if we have a room that we've built that we might have 20 users coming to visit, they won't have any interaction with other people. So this could be really helpful in an educational setting where you might want to build a space and an experience with resources, but you don't want students having any level of interaction because you might not be there to interact with them. So again, if we go to the overflow menu, and then I'm in the particular frame that I'm kind of in right now or modifying, I can switch to single user mode. Say, yes, I'll switch to single user. That will reload the frame on both devices, on the device that I'm on and on the iPad that's connected as well. And now we won't have any interaction at all. Right, so now there's multiple people in the room. My iPad is in the room at the exact same time. Let me reconnect my iPad and show you over here. Right, so my iPad's in the room. On the left, on the main device that I'm working on, I'm in the room on my MacBook, my iPad is in the room as well, but there's no interaction between users. So if I were to turn that off, go to the overflow menu, go to the frame that I'm in right now, Here's the frame that I'm in, and I'll go back to multi-user mode. Yes, we'll do a reload of everything. Notice it's reloading on both devices live right now. You jump back in with my iPad. So the iPad is in. We'll get in on the MacBook as well. And now let me just look around over here. Let's find our friends. There we are. There's my buddy. There we go. There's my anonymous buddy right there. So now we can interact the same way we always would using Frame. And then, like I said earlier, we can go into one of those spaces. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're using this tool is to make sure that all users have headphones and a microphone so we don't get any kind of like a nasty feedback loop. That can happen if any guests are not used to using this space and don't have a headset set up. Now, another feature that I like to show that they've done a recent update to, I'm going to change the scene that I'm in right now. And this is also something to notice is we can toggle the environment over on the fly. So I'm going to toggle this over from Zen Office that does have those location-based audio interactions. I'm going to change this over to one of the traditional ones, which is a small gallery. So we'll do a reload for everyone right now and then get into the small gallery. So what's helpful about the small gallery is the ability here to do a screen share or a camera share. But I'm also going to show you that from both perspectives, from the guest who's in the room right now and from the host who's in the room. So I'm the host right now on the MacBook. I'm going to do a camera share. You can see it. Now we have a little bit of redundancy with both videos, but we have that set up. So now with the iPad, I'll emphasize the iPad a bit so we can get like the guest view over here. With the iPad, now, right, if you are running this as a class environment, students can see you live in the call. And then really quickly and easily, from the teacher perspective or from the leader of the group perspective, I can simply turn that off and it ends my video share. But we can also have a screen share option as well. So you can do a live screen share inside of any call. More updates that I wanted to show that I think can be really valuable. So I changed the scenery that I'm in. I'm in this kind of amphitheater setting here, and I like this one a lot because it has this really big kind of projection screen where you can do a screen share or you can share your screen up there as well. So this would be a really interesting setting to use as an educational environment. Let me just minimize that iPad screen a little bit here because you could have students, kind of congregate to be able to see that live projection. So here's a student. I'm coming down the stairs over here. So we may be able to watch that live, and then when it's time to go maybe into like a breakout environment or work with a specific small group, we might have one specific group going over here in the top, and we can see that student up there in their space right now. And then that would be a really nice way to kind of run your experience. But what I wanted to add in here is just a few additional things to show you. Let me get my iPad out of here. Is that when we're in editing mode in any space, it's really easy with the new updates to Frame to add some really valuable resources, particularly audio files in the whiteboard. So let me show you what I mean by that. If we wanted a whiteboard in this space, what I'll do is go to my toolbar down here. I'm going to toggle over to edit mode, right? So now I can do some live edits. And when I go to the overflow menu in the top right, the little triple line overflow menu, on the frame that I'm in, right? See, it's in edit mode right now. And in edit mode, I have all of these options of assets that I can add to the frame. The one that I think could be really interesting is adding the whiteboard. So that I've added this whiteboard to the frame. And now what I'm able to do is move this around if I want to. So I'm clicking and holding and then just, let me back up a little bit there. I can click and hold and then walk around to place this exactly where I need the frame, or where I need this whiteboard, right? So I'll leave the whiteboard there for now. And notice we can change the rotation if needed. Because we're in edit mode, I can make this any way that I want, and I can even make this really big. So if we were to exit edit mode, let me get out of edit mode. And now if we back up, that's a much more substantial size. So even, let me bring my iPad back into this so we can see our iPad friend. Even our iPad student over here, as they walk over, you can see like that's a pretty substantial size whiteboard for them to work from. So now what I'm able to do from the instructor side, let me role play the instructor again over here. I'll get closer to this whiteboard. Let me get my iPad out of the way. And now in order to kind of interact with it, it's a click and hold, and you can see it goes right into inking mode. So I can do any sort of interaction that I want on this. So I'll just do this addition. We'll do 34 plus 26. Number 1. Doing this live in a video, this is a bad idea. Right, so there's our interaction. And you can actually ink on this as well on the iPad. Let me get myself out of the way. There we go. And now we'll look at this from the iPad view. And I'm inking on this on my iPad just with the touch screen right now. So I'll move the iPad over so you can see it. So all of the inking that I just did, all of the inking that I just did over here on the right, that was done on the iPad just simply by touching and inking. So reality is too, if you wanted to as an instructor, you could have a mobile device in the scene and then you could ink on the dry erase board anytime you wanted to. I'll clear the board right now as well. So that's a really interesting setting. Now, if we go back into editing mode, I'm just going to look down, go triple dot, go on that little overflow menu. Let me get this out of the way. And then I'll go back into editing mode. And when we're in editing mode, now I have the ability to change the location, modify this, dry erase board, do whatever I want to it. If we're out of editing mode, let me just get rid of my iPad for a second. If we're out of editing mode, then I have the ability to just ink on top of that. So I'm back live in editing mode. When you double tap on the asset, that's when it gives me the ability to lock it in place, change the scale, change the rotation, or if I don't need that anymore, just simply delete the asset, and now it's gone from the scene. So another feature that they've added, again, in editing mode, in the overflow menu, we have the ability to add audio. Now you can add all sorts of assets, but audio is a newer one. So we'll go into add audio, and I'll grab a file from my downloads. I should have an audio file that I can upload here. There's an audio file. And we'll drop that into the scene. You can see it's uploading, and then that asset is going to be added. And now that, I'll get out of editing mode. We can interact with that asset. Just walk forward a bit. So that asset can be played by any user in the room. So that could be a really interesting approach to having instructional content in your space. So students can come over and play that content, hear the content. Could be really interesting to pair that also with those kind of private audio zones. I haven't actually had a time to test that out, but those are some of my favorite new features in Frame. So definitely think about how we can incorporate these into a kind of virtual instructional environment as well. So I know we just did a little bit of an introduction. If you want to see any of the previous videos that I've made on Frame, you can check those out about adding assets and adding spaces on the ground or material that's on the wall that everyone can interact with. But those new updates, especially that location-based audio one, the Megaphone setting, and then a really nice update to the screen sharing. It's super high quality screen sharing. I thought this was worth an exploration. So thanks for checking out the video. Definitely check out Frame VR, and I encourage you to explore that as a potential environment for an educational experience. Thanks everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to check out any future videos, and I hope to see you again soon.